Hey, Dad.
Yes, son.
You think we can go fishing today?
I don't see why not. Go in the basement and grab some worms.
Sweet.
So this happens a lot. It'll be spur of the moment. My son comes up and says, "Hey, you want to go fishing?" Yeah. So it's so nice to have our own worms and our own worm farms inside the basement. Our basement is controlled 60 to 70 degrees. They are breeding all year round. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a worm farm, how to take care of them, and they are so low maintenance. Quit spending the money on going to the gas station, buying a $5 tub of worms. Just grow them in your basement. So right here, I want you to notice how dark the soil is. When it's just black, like you'll hear it's black gold. This is vermicast. It's the worm poop, but it is straight great fertilizer. And we'll talk about later on what you can use that for as well. But worms are so easy to take care of. All they do is they eat, they breed, they poop, and they just keep doing that. That's all they do. So now what we're going to do is take this one of these worm farms that's been here, and I'm going to separate it, and I'm going to turn one bin into two bins. I have a homemade sifter. It's just some screening material. It has 1/8 inch holes in it, and what I'm doing is sifting out the worm casting. After I remove the worm castings, then I take what's on top of the screen, I dump that into the new bin. There's a lot of bedding, there's eggs, there's a lot of worms that I'm now just taking one bin, and I'm going to take half of it out, and I'm going to make a new bin with it. So now you're left with worm castings. There's a lot of stuff you can do with this. You can put it in, you have indoor plants, you use it as a fertilizer. Other people, they can make worm tea, you can sell it. I just throw it in my garden. Here, I just want to show you that there's eggs all over. 1 to 5 worms in each egg. Now that I extracted the worm castings, it's time to make new worm bedding. I use a Bonsai 18 sheet cross-cut paper shredder. I cut cardboard strips about 4 to 5 inches wide. And here you can see that the Bonsai shredder has no issues at all taking this cardboard. Now this cardboard here is printed cardboard. Avoid using any type of printed. You don't want all that ink in your worm bedding. Something else you need to watch out for is the packing tape. Just cut around the packing tape. You don't want that in your worm bedding either. The worms are not going to be able to eat that and turn it into worm castings. One box the size that I'm cutting up right now, that's plenty enough to go about a half full bin on the Bonsai shredder. And that's going to be enough to create 2 new bins. Now I'm adding peat moss. Right here is just a half a bag of the peat moss. And then I'm going to take the cardboard that I ran through the paper shredder, and I'm mixing these two together. You want to pre-soak your bedding before you add it with your worm farms. I have a 5-gallon bucket. It was about 3/4 full. You can see in the video how much water I am adding. You want to make sure there's plenty of moisture. This fresh cardboard and the peat moss is going to absorb a lot of water. Now I'm just dumping half of the new bedding into the one bin and the other half into the second bin. You want to get everything mixed up because there's still a lot. There's soil, there's vermicast, there's the worm castings. You want to get it all mixed up and fluffed up with the worms and all the new bedding. Get it all fluffed up and mixed together. You should be able to grab a handful of your bedding material and be able to squeeze out some moisture. You know you have plenty of moisture at that time. Now that I have all new fresh bedding, I like to line the top of my bedding with cardboard. Now, another thing too is you want to pre-soak your cardboard. If you just put dry cardboard right on top of your pre-soaked bedding, that cardboard is going to absorb a lot of that moisture. I feed my worms with chicken crumble. It's just a chicken feed, but get the crumble. It's just small pieces. It's easy for the worms to digest. When you use food scraps, you're going to start having fruit flies. You're going to start having mites and the flies. I don't have any smell, any stink, and I don't have any bugs or any issues at all when I strictly only use chicken crumble. The sprayer that I use is a homemade contraction. It is a 12-volt pump sprayer. I have one hose going into a 5-gallon bucket full of water. And the sprayer that I'm using is just a kitchen sink adapter. After I feed my worms, which I feed them once every 2 weeks, and I only feed half of the bin, but I always spray the chicken crumble. It just helps the food help dissolve and softens it up, makes it easier for the worms to eat. So what I've started doing recently that's been helping a lot, keeping the worms down and off the rim when I lift up the lid, is I add some bedding material on the other half of the bin. And I'll add a little bit of moisture to this bedding area, but I want to keep it a little bit more drier. Since I've started this, adding some extra bedding on the other side, I've noticed that the worms are staying down and staying in the bedding material. All right, guys, we're almost done, and I'm telling you, follow these simple steps. You're going to have more worms than you know what to do with. All right, make sure you put the lids on. The lids, they keep the moisture down. They keep the moisture inside the bins. Another thing I want to add is all I do is I drill a series of holes. You can see in the video there, I use a 1/4-inch drill bit. Just punch a bunch of holes on the lids, and that's going to be fine. With the moisture levels, pre-soaking your bedding, and adding moisture during your feedings, that's going to be plenty of moisture for your worms. Hope you enjoyed.